Hey everyone, and welcome to your Linux and open source news in a slightly revised format. So this time we have Easy Anti-Cheat, not being as easy to implement as we initially thought. We have Linux Mint 20.3 and Mint reaching an agreement with Mozilla about Firefox. We have an open source developer intentionally sabotaging their own libraries to own the big Fortune 500 companies, and humble choice, kinda restricting choice. Completely unlike today's sponsor, which will let you keep using CentOS 8 right after its end-of-life deadline. So take a look. This video is sponsored by TuxCare, and the day has finally come. CentOS 8 is now officially end-of-life, so it's not getting any patches for any new vulnerabilities in any of its packages, unless you subscribe to TuxCare's Extended Lifecycle Support service and get all these patches straight from TuxCare instead of getting them from the distro. This means that your systems will stay safe and compliant with all your security requirements while you plan for a migration to another system. Running without support gets expensive very quickly. Check out the calculator available in the TuxCare website to get an idea of just how expensive it can be. As the Log4j issues have shown, being at risk and being attacked is not something that happens in the movies or to others. All organizations need a strategy to stay safe. So click the link in the description below to subscribe to TuxCare's Extended Lifecycle Support service and make sure that you can migrate off CentOS 8 at your own pace. So let's begin with the Linux news. CentOS 8 has now finally reached end of life on December 31st of 2021. Yeah, I'm late. This means that CentOS will still get an update to Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.5 when it's released, and also will get its set of base updates, but that's it. So support is basically done. No one will automatically be migrated to CentOS Stream, so if you want to keep your server safe, now might be a time to look at the sponsored mention we just watched, or you can switch to Alma Linux or Rocky Linux if you want to replace CentOS entirely. Canonical is hiring a desktop gaming product manager. This new role will basically have to coordinate and push efforts to try and turn Ubuntu into a better distro for gaming. There is no specific info about what exactly they want to improve on Ubuntu for gaming, but the new product manager will apparently have to advocate on the inside of Canonical as well as on the outside, mostly through marketing documents and presentations, and trying to define what's needed to make Ubuntu better at gaming. We'll have to see if that role ends up making a difference for Ubuntu and gaming on Ubuntu. The old guard that left Canonical in the recent years seems to think that it won't. Linux Mint 20.3 is now out, and this LTS version will be supported until 2025. It brings a slightly updated theme with less green and more gray, and the mandatory rounded corners, but the old theme is still installable if you don't like these rounded corners. Some native media apps also have been moved to dark mode by default, and Cinnamon has received a lot of improvements. The calendar applet shows calendar events, the file manager now lets you rename files when you're moving them in the same folder as another file with the same name, the run dialog is revamped, and the effects utility has all the effects in one page. Default apps also have been tweaked with a new document library called Thingy. The Notes tool gets search and formatting options, and a lot more. I'll have a review of this new release on the channel before the end of the month, so subscribe if you want to see that. The Linux kernel version 5.16 is now out and about, and the major change added here is Vutex 2, which is something Collabora contributed, and that should make Linux gaming better in terms of CPU usage. Basically, the feature should get you more FPS, and who doesn't love that? The AMD GPU driver will now support DisplayPort 2.0, the new Intel Alchemist cards, so more work done to add support, and this new release also improves support for the Switch's Joy-Cons, the PlayStation 5's DualSense, as well as the new Apple Magic Keyboard and a lot of Microsoft Surface products. Realtek users will also get a new driver for Wi-Fi. Basically, it's a very gaming-focused release that I can't wait to get on my Fedora desktop. More Linux Mint news as project lead Clement Lefebvre announced that Mint will now ship a vanilla implementation of Firefox without any of the Mint customizations. Mozilla will keep packaging the browser as a deb and provide it with its own defaults, including Google Search, the default start page, and no code changes from Ubuntu, Debian, or Mint. Users of Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, or Startpage will be moved to Google Search as the default, and we'll have to redo that configuration change. Mint apparently will still get some revenue from Mozilla when users use Google search. I've already seen some complaints about how Mint sold out to Mozilla, but honestly I think that alternative is preferable for 99% of people, compared to just having the Snap version of Firefox, which is extremely slow to start. Moving on to the open source news. Nate Graham from KDE published a roadmap for KDE in 2022. They aim to focus on making language selection and format selection a lot more streamlined, as right now you can change some options in 2 different settings panels, sometimes with conflicting results. The breeze icons will also get modernized with less pronounced shadows, a bit more roundness, and monochrome icons will also get a facelift. Now, what happened to the Oxygen 2.0 theme from Nuno Pinheiro? I wonder. This looked cool. That's what I want to see. Other areas of focus for KDE are multi-monitor support being improved, inertial scrolling, a complete Wayland session to replace X11, and a 15-minute bug initiative on Plasma. That's kind of the same as the 1000 paper cuts project from Ubuntu a few years ago, which is a very good thing. These small bugs, when added together, are what make people leave a desktop, not the big issues that you can work your way around. The developer of the very popular NPM libraries Colors and Faker has intentionally sabotaged them because they were tired of seeing their work being used by giant companies without any contributions, financial or otherwise. These libs suddenly started displaying weird garbled text instead of what users had been used to, and this broke thousands of projects that had updated. While I understand the frustration on working on projects and libraries that millions of people have downloaded and tens of thousands of projects are actively using and not getting any money from it, it's how the open source model is. People are free to use your stuff because you gave them that permission, and they're also free to not pay you for that work because you also gave them that permission. Intentionally destroying your own work and breaking other people's things isn't a way to make people care, and might even damage the reputation of open source software. We do have a financial model to find though. And now let's talk about the apps. Pinta has a new release out. Version 2.0 of the Paint.NET clone for Linux is now fully using GTK 3 and .NET 6. It looks a lot more modern on our desktops with recent-looking GTK file pickers, widgets, and dialogues. Too bad GTK 4 is out now and they're gonna have to redo it all over again. Support for high DPI displays is improved, and the toolboxes are now located in a single column, which not everyone will be a fan of. Recently used colors are now accessible from the color palette, and colors and tools save their states between sessions. Pinta is a great app and a great compromise between something too simple, like Microsoft Paint, and something too complex, like the GIMP. The Heroic Games Launcher also moved to version 2.0. The new release streamlines the login process, no longer asking users to go and copy a token from their web browser. Now you just log in directly in a web view, and that logs you into the Epic Games Store as well, so you can use the Store tab to grab these free games. I mean, most gamers have tens of games in the Epic Games Store client, but who actually paid for one of these games, right? Other improvements include more language support, a streamlined game installation process, and refactors, so the app uses less CPU and less RAM. As a reminder, it's also available on Windows if you would prefer using it instead of the official client. Now personally, I like it so much that I became a patron of the project. Firefox 96 is now out, and it brings improvements to noise suppression and auto gain control, as well as echo cancellation, so voice chats should work better. The main thread of Firefox has also been improved, so it should use less resources now, and the browser is now better protected against cross-site request forgery attacks based on cookies. Video quality will also no longer be downgraded when using apps using the RTC protocol. But the most important change is probably that Firefox 96 supports rounded corners on the new theme implementation, which is delicious. Now let's talk about hardware. System76 has announced their new Kudu laptop, which seems to be the most powerful laptop they'll have in their lineup. It brings Ryzen 9 CPUs with a 15-inch 1080p display running at 144Hz, with an RTX 3060 GPU and up to 64GB of fast DDR4 RAM. The chassis looks like my prototype Aurora laptop, which is a chungus of a device at more than 2 kilograms. But it's definitely well cooled and more of a desktop replacement than a truly portable laptop you'd want to carry around every day. It's a mobile workstation basically. You can not buy it yet, but you can get notified when it becomes available. More laptops with the brand new Dell XPS 13 Plus. which will be sold with Ubuntu if you so wish. This laptop has an insanely cool looking design with very big squared keys flush with each other, basically no bezels, but also no ports other than two Thunderbolt 4 and no function row, replaced by a capacitive touch row that can't change depending on what you do. Think Apple Touch Bar, but with all the inconvenience and none of the advantages. Oh, and also there is no headphone jack. So while they kinda ruined the design for a lot of people, they still bring the latest Intel 12th gen chips, which seem to make the decision between Intel and AMD a lot more complicated than it used to. The PinePhone Pro is now available for pre-order in its Explorer edition. If you want to pre-order yours and receive it quickly, you should make a move before January 18th, so your order will be dispatched before the 24th. All orders that come in after that will only be dispatched at the end of February, so there's going to be a longer wait delay. The PinePhone Pro is a revamped, much more powerful version of the original PinePhone, and I expect it to be finally able to run our Linux mobile desktops, if that term even makes sense, or at least to be able to run them better than the original underpowered PinePhone did. Let's complete this video with some gaming. Turns out easy anti-cheat Proton support isn't as simple to implement as we originally thought. While it was built as a one checkbox move for developers, that's only true if you use the Epic Online Services version of Easy Anti-Cheat, or EOS for short. If you use the previous version of the SDK, you basically have to move to the EOS version. And this is much more complex to do and requires tons of testing. Basically, we can safely assume that most games that are already released will not do that, and that Proton support for EAC will only come to newer games that will use the newer version of Easy Anti-Cheat that's coming with the Epic Online Services. Now, there also seem to be some concerns that the EOS version would require users and gamers to log into Epic Games Store to play, but it seems that's not the case at all, fortunately. DXVK has a new release out, version 1.9.3. It now supports NVIDIA DLSS in combination with DXVK NV API, which is basically an enhanced version of the NVIDIA NV API, but for DXVK. It also brings tons of improvements to DirectX 9 games, like Dark Souls 2, Bayonetta, or Rayman Origins. There's also a fix for some games that fail to enter full-screen mode, and more optimizations for Black Mesa, Crysis 3 Remastered, Injustice, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, or SimCity 2013. Basically, as always, it makes games work better, and you should get that update in the next Proton release. Sad news to conclude the video, as Humble Choice, the Humble Bundle subscription service, is dropping macOS and Linux support at the beginning of February. Basically, this service allowed you to pay more to get more games monthly, and now you will only get one tier at $12 a month, giving you access to Humble's collections of games, named Trove, and a brand new Humble Games collection for more modern titles. It's kind of funny how a service called Humble Choice will actually give you less choice in the end, but probably everybody already made the joke, so forget about it. Access to these two libraries will require using a new client, that is Windows only. Maybe it will run with Proton or Wine, maybe not, but if you were a subscriber, do download all copies of your games before the end of the month, because everything seems like it will be removed from the site in the future. They call this leveling up, but yeah, in my opinion, that's a regression, a big one. So this video was made possible by Slimbook, and all of you guys already know what Slimbook is. It's a manufacturer based in Valencia, Spain, that makes Linux laptops, and desktops as well. And you can buy them with any kind of Linux pre-installed on them. They have multiple keyboard layouts, multiple price points, multiple power levels. Basically, there's a device for everybody. I only use their stuff nowadays. If you want a new Linux device, just click the link in the description below and get at it. They are great. Now, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, do everything that YouTube requires you to do to get that content. And if you didn't like the video, the dislike button also works, and well, kinda works. And you can also drop a comment to tell me why you didn't enjoy that new format, maybe, if you didn't like it. I think it's good. Tell me what you think. So if you want to help me making more videos like this one and all the others on the channel, you can also join my Patreon subscribers or my YouTube members. Both get the same perks. You get access to a weekly Patreon cast and the right to vote on the next topics I'll cover. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!